Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Na 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 Shalom, 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 shalom. Shabbat shalom. Oh, hello everybody. Shabbat shalom. Hello YouTubeverse and Zoomiverse. And Shabbat shalom to everybody in the room. If you were wondering what all those adorable little yummy voices were that you're hearing in the hallways, and also some possibly getting run over by some very fast cutie pies, we had all of our families for whom their children are in our 3-year-old part of preschool. So they're right next door, and some of them are here gonna play with us. They're gonna pray with us, which is like playing for them, maybe for us too. So page 24. Shalom, 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 shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharei, Malachi Elyon, Ami Melech, Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Leshalom, Malachi Ashalom, Malachi Elyon, Ami Melech, Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Malachei HaMelachim, Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Ami Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon, Ami Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So tomorrow morning, Stella will come up to the Torah for the very first time as bat mitzvah. And so in honor of that, we call her with her nuclear family up to light our candles and to lead us in Kiddush.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so we may in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
The microphone, please.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon chin hilanu zikaron lema'aseh b'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh zecher letziot mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon chinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. A little taste for what's to come tomorrow. Mazal tov. Good job.
It's a busy night tonight at the congregation. You probably hear a little bit of the hum behind you. We had a special dinner just for the threes classes in our preschool, and also a large group of our congregation is up at Camp Harlem in the Poconos because it's the 6th grade retreat this weekend. And so Rabbi Sharon Litwin sends her regards, and it's just, that's the beauty of our congregation, is that we are what many people call the Cineplex model. Lots of different things happening in lots of different pockets. So we're going to continue. We're on page 10, Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid nefesh avarachman, Yedid nefesh avarachman, meshocha v'decha el ritzonecha, meshocha v'decha la 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 ritzonecha yarutz avdecha yarutz avdecha כמו אייל אשתחה אייל הרעך ידיד נפש ידיד נפש אברחמן ידיד
נפש אברחמן
משוחרר
We're on page 20, and we join together in the words of Lachadoti.
The bottom of the page on page 14.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
yes.
okay, Rabbi. I didn't hear what you said, so I thought, it's all right. I'm not sure. He might have said the right thing. I'm just going with it.
Or Zarua,
Or Zarua, and here we are again.
page 14.
אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. אור זרוע, אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שים. Now on yalalai, let's sing Or Zarua. Oh, Zarua לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. אור זרוע, אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי שמחה. שמחו צדיקים באדוני, שמחו צדיקים באדוני, שמחו צדיקים באדוני, והודו לבית שם קודשו. שמחו צדיקים באדוני, שמחו צדיקים באדוני, שמחו צדיקים באדוני, והודו לזכר קודשו. אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. One more time. אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה.
A little light in the dark tonight.
And now we turn together. We're on page 20, Lachadoti.
לך דודי, אליי, לקראת כלה. בני שבת, נקווה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. בני שבת נקרא שמור וזכור בדיבורך ישיעם אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו תפארת בלי תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקרא לקראת שבת לכוון אליך כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם מסך סוף מעשה במחשבה Shabbat Tehila
Let's hear you. Ya ilai ilai,
Ya la 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 L'chad oti Ya ilai ilai Ya la 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 la
likrat kala.
Ya la 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 la
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Verse 5 Hit'oreri 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 Kivarei Mi'ori Shidaberi Kevod Adonai Alayich nigla Alayich nigla Ya la la Ya la 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 L'chad oti Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Likrat kara Likrat kara Ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat B'nei Shabbat Nikabela.
We rise together, verse 9.
Boi v'shalom Atrebala Gam b'simcha Uv'tzola Tochemunei Am segula Boi chala Boi chala Ya ila ila Ya la 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 L'chad oti Ya la ila ila Ya la 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 Likrat kala Ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat B'nei Shabbat Nikabel La 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 L'chad oti Ya ila ila Ya la 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 Likrat kala Ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat B'nei Shabbat Nikabel.
We remain standing, page 28.
Together we sing.
Seated together. We move forward in our prayer book now to page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch ata Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim.
Amen.
Page 32.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ויומם בלילה,
יומם בלילה.
ואהבתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוכת אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. Page 36. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We move forward in our prayer book. We're on page 40, Michamocha. Together. Michamocha.
Bailim Adonai.
Bailim Adonai. Michamocha.
Nedar bakodesh.
Nedar bakodesh.
Norah. Tehilot. כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, קהל ישראל.
Bottom of page 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadow of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth, prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. Page 44.
ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. What is it? Where am I? כי שתת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We turn to page 46 as we rise together, and we move into silence after this opening meditation through page 62. You can be seated when you're finished.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך.
Wherever you are tonight in your prayerfulness, just want to invite you to imagine that these moments of quiet, perhaps for you, these are the only quiet moments you've had all day, maybe all week. Just taking a moment to really landing right here. Nothing else that is needed of you except presence, and perhaps with presence, compassion for all we hold, for all we are. On the screen, you'll see some words. Olam chesed yibaneh. The world is built from love. Let's breathe in that message tonight. Let's make a gentle gaze inward to our hearts to find the chesed, the compassion. It's right there.
Olam chesed yibaneh, yararai, yararai. 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 I will build this world from love. I will build this world from love. Yalarai, yalalai. And you must build this world. And you must build this world from love, from love. Yalarai, yalarai. And if we build this world, and if we build this world from love, if we build it from love, then God will build this world. Then God will build this world from love through us. Olam chesed, once more. Olam chesed yibaneh, yarai, yalalai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yarai, yarai.
As we do each week, we share together in a special prayer for the state of Israel. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we ask that you bless the state of Israel and all of Israel's inhabitants. Mokor Chaim, source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return home. Protect them and guide them. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Holy and Blessed One, show Israel's leaders your paths so they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep their hearts from hardening. Adonai Poked, God who remembers. It has been almost a year and a half, and there are more than 100 people currently being held in Gaza, many who are thought to be alive, and their time is running out. They include Avi Natan Or, 30, Daniela Gilboa, 19, Shlomo Mansour, 85, Bipin Joshi, 23, Sasha Trufanov, 30, Arbel Yehud, 28, Hamza Ziadne, 22, and Emily Damri, 27. Matir Asurim, freer of captives, return all those who are kidnapped safe and sound to their homes, without the spilling of any more innocent blood, without any more souls being tarnished by horrific acts. Ba'al HaRachamim, master of compassion, help us hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people, of all the residents of the state of Israel, while also holding the humanity and the dignity of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, remind us of your ways. Spread over us a shelter of peace and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall no longer take up sword against nation. They shall never again know war.
We move ahead in our Siddur to page 253 as we offer this prayer for healing, a Mishaberach. And I'll ask for names in a few short minutes, and then you'll see a listing of names on our screen as well. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So one of the wonderful things that we get to do tonight is to welcome Jim Holzer as our new executive director. And, well, stay seated for just a little bit. We're going to call you up for a blessing in a moment, but first I want to welcome to the Bima our president, Marty Baum, to say a few words, and then we'll call you up.
Shabbat Shalom. Leadership is at the heart of every thriving community. And today we celebrate the arrival of someone who is going to help grow and inspire us to be even a stronger and better congregation. I am absolutely delighted to introduce and welcome Jim Holzer to our community as the new executive director as of this Monday. He's already pretty far behind on the to-do list, but I know he'll catch up very quickly. So Jim, his wife Sherry, and Sherry's mother are new to the area, and we all look forward to welcoming them into our community and into this special place that we call home. So just a little background, having Jim get to this point and us getting to our point here was a rather lengthy process. It began last May and actually just concluded a couple of weeks ago. And just to briefly summarize, Jody Nussbaum, who many of us know, who's been a long-time congregant, led a 9-person task force to identify a selection process and develop a very thorough and objective way that we can make sure that we have an executive director that meets our high standards and that can really guide us into the future. Importantly, this effort included a lot of you, our clergy, our staff, to make sure that we understood the job from the bottom up. What are the roles and responsibilities? What do we need in order to make our future that much brighter? In my opinion, this approach was, I've worked at a lot of organizations over many, many years. This was about as best of class in any organization I've seen. So I'm very proud of that process, and I'm also super thrilled about the result. Jim has a remarkable blend of professional and experience in both the secular world and the Jewish world. He was president and chief financial officer of a successful marketing and advertising agency. He was previously an executive recruiter. And most relevant to us, of course, is that he was an executive director for about a year and a half at West End Synagogue in Nashville, Tennessee. As executive director, Jim will be instrumental in guiding our operational and strategic efforts and work toward achieving our vision of a hub of worship, learning, discourse, and culture. He will work closely with all of us to strengthen our sense of community and prepare us for the future. We have someone here, Jim, who sees the potential of our opportunities here in our community, but importantly understands the essence of what makes us unique as a congregation. So please share with me a warm TNT welcome and a heartfelt congratulations to Jim and his family. Make sure you introduce yourself. He's only met about 200 people so far this week, so he's still working on connecting the names with the faces, but I know he'll get there pretty soon.
So we're going to get a chance to really formally welcome you and offer you a blessing. So I'm going to invite you to come stand here. And I'm going to invite everybody to rise as we open up our ark. We'll invite Cantor Greenberg up as well. So one of my favorite moments in the whole of the Torah is when Moses passes the mantle of leadership on. He sees Joshua, and he says to Joshua 2 words. The 2 words are, be strong and be courageous. That is his charge. And in the end of the day, that's ultimately what leadership really is. It's about strength, both strength of character, but also strength to weather the storm. This is not an easy job. In fact, when the job description was shown to Cantor Greenberg, she turned to Jody and she said, so you're looking for a Superman? And Jody
Pretty sure I said superhero.
Yes.
Could have been any gender of any kind. Just.
And Jody said yes. And I was talking to somebody else who had actually looked at the job description, and they said, wow, I don't know any other job that expects you to be a master of all trades in the way that an executive director of a synagogue does. There's a real strength that one needs to have to weather the difficulties of the many different things that are thrown at you, and also to make the tough decisions and to really balance all the competing needs. Strength and courage is at the heart of leadership. And strength and courage, from everything that I've heard as we were calling your references and we were learning about you, and what I've even seen in the first week that you've been here, is part and parcel of the way that you work. And so we offer you this blessing, the priestly benediction, with the understanding that you're going to bring that strength and that courage, that vision and that heart with you, as together we shape this community into a place that is more loving, more just, and more spiritual each and every moment.
Join me. Okay, if it feels right, you can lift your hands up. And you can just receive it. Stella's going to have this tomorrow morning, but it's your bar mitzvah right now.
May God bless you and protect you.
May God
cause God's face to shine upon you and give you grace. May God always smile upon you, granting you a life of wholeness and peace.
Can you hear that? So may it be God's will, and let us say Amen. And your wife is an amazing cook. So just as a bonus,
Yes.
we're glad you're here.
So everyone, you can take a seat. Everyone will get a chance to really meet Jim and talk to him the oneg and really just get a chance to see what a great guy he is and that he's already shown himself in a way to be ready to plug into this community. So Shabbat Shalom. So this week's portion has one of the more famous stories in the book of Genesis. In fact, in my old congregation in Brooklyn, one of the 2 stained glass windows was actually of this scene. One of them, of course, was Moses being picked up in the bulrush by Batia, by Pharaoh's daughter, and eventually raised to become Pharaoh's kind of adoptive son. But the other one was this. In our portion, Jacob is running away from home. He's just tricked his brother, and he knows his brother wants to kill him. And so knowing this, he flees to the land of his mother's brother, of his uncle, so that he might be able to find a wife there and avoid his brother's wrath. And while he's running away, he lays down and he dreams of a ladder from the earth up to heaven. And on top of that ladder is God, and going up and down that ladder are angels. And God looks at him and says, look, I know you are scared, but don't worry. Things are going to turn out okay for you. And he wakes up and he utters one of the most famous spiritual phrases in all of Jewish history. Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. Surely God was in this place, and I did not know. I've been thinking a little bit about that phrase in light of the fact that Notre Dame just opened this weekend, today really. And I distinctly remember 5 years ago in 2019 watching the structure fall. Now, I never made it in. Ayelet and I went on vacation to Paris a few years before that. I had never been, and the lines were just too long, and we didn't buy the tickets. And so we stood in them for a few minutes, and then we gave up, and we went to brunch. So I don't personally know what the inside looked like, though I did a bit of Googling on that trip because I was having a sense that I was missing out on something major. But that structure is incredibly important, not just because of its history, not just because of its literature that has been written about it, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but also because there is something inherently spiritual for lots of people who walk into that building. They walk into that building and they say to themselves, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh lo yadati. Wow, God is in this place, and I didn't know. In whatever their faith, they walk in and they feel a sense of something. And I've been thinking about how it is that space itself can encode for God. Often when I have conversion students, I ask them to read a book on prayer by one of my teachers, Rabbi Larry Hoffman. And in that book, Larry Hoffman spends a bunch of time in prayer talking about the architecture of a congregation. And ultimately, my students always come to me after having read that book, scratching their head and asking me why I assigned a book on prayer that spent about a quarter of the book talking about the building of prayer rather than specifically talking about prayer itself. And the reason is because space matters. And in fact, space becomes an almost theological statement. Where you pray means ultimately what you think about God. Now, I want to pause for a second, and I want to observe that, because it's a really important thing to consider. In Judaism, there are 2 avenues to prayer. One is called keva, and one is called kavanah. Keva is the fixed part of a prayer. It is the actual prayers in the book. And those, by the way, keva means fixed, don't change. The Shema will always come before the V'ahavta, which will always come before the Michamocha prayer, which will always move toward the spiritual high point of the Amidah prayer. The prayers itself are standard. We do not change. But everything around those prayers changes the experience of prayer for you. The melodies that Cantor Greenberg uses, the way the lighting is in the room, how you are sitting, even the style of sealing in your midst determines the kind of experience you have. Now, Jews don't pay that much attention to space, in part because Jews draw a distinction between space and time. Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote in his famous book about Shabbat that Jews don't build cathedrals, they build cathedrals in time, because great cathedrals will one day crumble. Think about the famous poem, I think by Percy, called Ozymandias, about a man who is walking in the desert, and what does he see but a cracked and broken statue of a once great king, and on that statue it says, "I am Ozymandias, fear me." And you see the contrast of that message with this crumbling, broken statue. The events of space, cathedrals of space can be ruined, but cathedrals in time can never be ruined. It will always be the seventh day. Shabbat will always roll around. Yom Kippur will always roll around. The month will change even if there's no one to observe them. And even in exile, Jews can't take their temple with them, but they can take their time. But nevertheless, space, even though we don't talk about it, matters. If you walked onto the Upper East Side and you've walked into one of the most impressive synagogues I have ever been in, which is Temple Emmanuel on the Upper East Side. Raise your hand, by the way, if you've been there. You have seen a synagogue that makes you feel a sense of what in Hebrew is called yirah. It is awe. It is the idea, and awe is defined as the feeling of feeling small in front of something very vast, such that the scale brings a little bit of fear into the mix. Think about a huge night sky full of stars, or standing on top of a mountain. And the experience of God can be the experience of awe. And you walk into Temple Emmanuel with those huge ceilings and that big stained glass, and you feel awe. On the other hand, if you've ever prayed in a living room before, you feel something else. You feel held by a community with low ceilings, sitting in a circle, trying to ultimately understand community where you can see the eyes of the people around you. You feel love. And the way you are meant to feel the space can ultimately dictate that for you. Love, awe, compassion, a God who is very far away or a God who is right here. God feels very powerful in a big ceiling. God's holding your hand in a living room. And so if you want to create whatever that God is, sometimes finding the specific space that you are in truly matters. It's the reason that the stage is just a little bit higher for us on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, or the reason that we want to sit with you in your midst to show you that ultimately religion is here on a Friday night with you, as opposed to towering above you. These are theological statements that we are making because space truly matters. Which, by the way, is an interesting reason that I think that instead of perfectly trying to recreate Notre Dame, the church ultimately went in a slightly different direction. If you've ever been to Barcelona, which I went to this summer, you've probably been to Sagrada Familia, that amazing church. And that church, by the way, has certain kind of architectural elements that are supposed to remind you of branches and leaves. It's supposed to make you feel like you're in the outside world. And at the same time, the colors and the lights stand out for you. You walk into that church feeling happy, and you walk out feeling the same thing. Now, that's not the way that most Baroque architecture is, which was what the old church was. There's a heaviness to that church if you walk into a Baroque church. There's a sense that God is powerful, and that if you step out of line, you sinner in the hands of that angry God, he might come and get you. Ultimately, that sense of fear, not just yirah, fear mixed with awe, but real fear, the sense of real quaking in front of a power that quote, no man can see my face and survive. That kind of God is supposed to remind you of the hardships and the harshness of life. But I constantly am meeting with B'nai Mitzvah students, and every one of those students that I talk to, when we talk about God, seems to have a problem with a sense of a God that feels a little bit in need of fear. God says over and over in the Torah, love me, but God says over and over in the Torah, fear me as well. And we live in a culture that would rather have a God of love than a God of fear. We are not in Puritan America anymore. And so I have to imagine that theologically they wanted their practitioners, their parishioners, to walk into that space and instead to feel a little more of that light, to feel a little bit more of that love, to feel a little lighter on their feet than they might have otherwise. Because we as a culture, and I'm not just talking about Christianity here, I'm talking about a wider culture of the world, needs to feel a God who's a little bit smiling on us, who's a little bit more loving, who's a little bit more embracing. It's the message we need, so it's the building that the French got. I've been thinking a lot about buildings also, as an aside, since we're going to be doing some building here in a few months, years, depends how quickly we can raise the money. And as we do, we are also thinking theologically about the kind of space that we want to create, in part because of the kind of God that we want to bring into this space. So to return back to our Torah portion, when Jacob wakes up and he says, surely God was in this place and I didn't know, often when we read that story, what we actually begin to think about, most of us, is that God was there all along, but he wasn't open to it. And by running away from home and being in fear of his brother, he now was ready to accept God, and that ultimately God kind of is in every space if we just, quote, let God in. As the Hasidic master, the Kutzker Rebbe says, where is God? Wherever you let God in. But maybe it was something else, which is that there was something maybe about that particular space that allowed him to open his heart and see God in a different way. Maybe it was the way that the bushes were, or the way the rocks were, or the way the sun was setting on the place, or what it was around him, or if he could hear a babbling brook or stream near him. But ultimately, it shaped him in such a way that he was able to find an image, not of an angry God, but of a loving one standing atop that ladder and reassuring him. Don't take space for granted when you figure out where and how to pray. The kind of God you need can be brought into a room simply by the way you set it up. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to turn to page 282, and we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kamishvechot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now go to those who we've loved and who we've lost. As I call the name of your loved one, I'll invite you to rise, honoring their memory. This Shabbat, we think of Rose Alexander, Irving Berner, Stanley Bernstein, Elias Brown, Jeffrey Duboff, Jacob Ehrlich, Molly Engelhart, Steve Fetter, Mildred Cohn-Frank, Sarah Sue Glick, Rosalind Hout-Gore, Helen Goldstein, Juanita Goldstein, Rose Gould, Mary Gruber, Ed Grush, Edward Haas, Rachel Harris, Lorraine Hertz, Matilda Horowitz, David Isaacs, Sally Jacobs, Irving Jacobson, Giori Joseph, Milton Katcher, Louis Katimsky, Morris Katz, Isidore Klein, Israel Kleinman, Jerome Kramer, David Leff, Aaron Leaf, Joshua Luft, Bernard Macy, Miriam Mannheim, Adolph Martin, Isidore Meinhardt, Cantor Samuel Morgenstern, Laura Morit Katz, Sophie Oger, Margaret Penny, Morton Pollock, Irving Price, George Schaefer, Constance Shavitz, Charlotte Schutzman, Marilyn Schwartz, Alex Schaefer, Faith Eleanor Sorkin, Belle Sweetwood, Ernest Unger, Edith Ungerova, and Francis Weinstein. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning, Lev Lazaroff, brother of Asia Eugenia, Lawrence Rosendorf, father of Eric Rosendorf, Karl Heimowitz, husband of Edna Heimowitz, and Paul Epstein, husband of Sandy Hertzberg. In addition to those names, I'll invite you to share any names of people for whom you're thinking that may not have been on this list or who you are within your 1 year period of mourning for. We turn together to page 294 and we rise for the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirtzeh, v'yamlech malchuteh, v'chayachon v'yamachon, uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, ba'akala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah m'barach le'olam omei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitnamam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'rechum. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiram b'yama v'imru amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'archo Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, huyaseh shalom, aleinu ve'archo Yisrael, v'imru amen. Please be seated. So a few announcements. So this Thursday, a friend of mine actually wrote a really wonderful Jewish book. It's called Last Stop, and it's about basically what would happen if these strange anomalies started in the world and the Jews got blamed for it. And it's actually one of the more important fictions to explore anti-Semitism. And he's actually going to be coming to my house on the 12th for a book talk, and this community is invited to that. And we still have space. And hopefully, if you're interested, you can join us for that. We have on the 21st of this month a special gathering specifically for interfaith families to get to know one another. It's a Hanukkah celebration, that pre-Hanukkah for those interfaith families. For the whole congregation as a whole, look out for the Shabbat that happens during Hanukkah. We're going to have a Shabbat service with a little candle lighting, followed by some really greasy Chinese food. Do you have anything you want to add in terms of
No, I mean, keep reading your Igeret. Shabbat. Oh, the Shabbaton is right down but it's at the end of January.
It's at the end of January, but I'll announce it. Sure.
We have a new year in between.
So we have our Shabbaton, which is our gathering where we gather all these other synagogues with us. to come for a day of prayer and learning, and it'll be really wonderful, and it's the last weekend in January.
Actually, since we're doing January 7th, we are going to have another screening for those who have missed it of the film I Will Build This World from Love, which is chronicling the ever-evolving Peace Cathedral, Peace Project community in Tbilisi, Georgia, the country of Georgia. And so please come to see that on the 7th, and we'll have a talk after.
And actually, speaking of Georgia, you're going to be getting an email at some point soon, just kind of an update on what's going on in Georgia. You may or may not know this, but there's a lot of violence going on right now in Georgia. There's been a concerted effort by the Georgian government to turn away from democracy and to crack down on the LGBTQ community and a lot of other communities. And the synagogue that is our sister synagogue there, as part of the tripartite synagogue, mosque, and church that are there, has become kind of a central point for protesters to come to get medical aid, to get supplies,
Rest, food.
And many of them are getting arrested. I mean, it's really, really bad. And so we're going to be sending out an email to you just about ways that you can help. I mean, this is a community that we trained for their adult b'nai mitzvahs. We were part of the first women reading Torah in the history of the country, and we have a documentary about them. We feel such a connection to them, and they are in peril right now. And so look out for an email and to talk about how you can help them.
Shkoach, thank you. We're going to end our tefillah lifting our voices up in praise of and hope for peace.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו
but a little faster. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. Here we go. Yadadai, yalalai, lai, lai, lai. שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And make a point to meet Jim and his family.